I think we shall begin. We already have a couple of audience here. So, Vedant, I think we should begin and respect people who've joined in time. Yeah.
Do you want me to just quickly introduce myself? Yeah, so I'm Vedant Vishwanath, and as the meeting says, I'm a second year at Oxford. I'm an undergraduate, of course, and my exact course is called Philosophy, Politics, and Economics. It's a BA course, and I look forward to this session where I'll tell you guys about life at Oxford, the application process, what you should do once you get there, etc., etc.
Okay. Namaste, everyone. Thank you for joining us today, and thank you, Vedant, for taking that initiative of introducing yourself. But let me sort of set the stage here. Why we all are here. So, don't we always wonder how nice it would have been if we could speak to some seniors who have achieved what we are aspiring for? And we could ask them, how did they prepare for to get into their dream college? How is it being there actually? And really getting a frank inside picture and many more insights. Today, we present to you exactly this opportunity to get your questions answered in a no holds bar with seniors. And for that, we have Vedant, who is joining us as part of our knowledge series. Please welcome Vedant. As Vedant already mentioned, he is a year two student at the prestigious University of Oxford, and he is studying philosophy, politics, and economics. Vedant, a very, very warm welcome to you today. But before we dig deeper into this conversation, let me introduce myself for those who don't know me. I'm Varnika Agarwal, a career coach and founder of My Big Leap. Can we have the slide shared, please? Thank you. So we are an independent education and career guidance consultancy based in Mumbai with a global reach. We handhold students and parents and provide various services, right from career counseling, which is stream and subject selection from class 8 onwards, based on our scientific assessment tools leading to selecting the right careers. We also work with working professionals who are looking at recalibrating their career paths. We are into profile building and university applications for admissions both in India and abroad. We also help young parents who are looking to select right curriculums for their toddlers, or for that matter, any stage in their schooling journey. We've had our students selected amongst few of the top universities globally. Vedant is surely one of them. Names of some of these universities you can see on your screen. Today, we have planned this as a 30-minute chat with Vedant, followed by 10 minutes of question and answer session. Dear audience, please keep typing in your questions as and when you get them while we are conversing, and please type them in the chat box. I'll try and include most of them in the conversation as we go along. We will try and cover the remaining question and answers at the end. So let's get the ball rolling. Vedant, why don't you first tell about the course you are studying at Oxford and what attracted you to this course?
So the course I'm studying, like I said, is PPE, so philosophy, politics, and economics. And the way it works is in the first year, you study all three subjects. In the second year, you can sort of specialize. So from the very beginning, I knew I sort of wanted to specialize in economics. So that part was sorted. And I also had this interest in geopolitics, politics in general. And I used to read a bit of philosophy and enjoy it. So I thought at Oxford, this is like a prestigious course. I thought the alternative economics course, which was economics and management, the management bit, I wasn't too sure whether I would enjoy it as much. And I wasn't extremely curious about it. So I thought PPE was the right course for me. And I've ended up enjoying it quite a bit as well.
Great. So, Vedant, that takes me to another very interesting question, which I'm sure you will be in a better position to answer now that you're 1 year down in Oxford. That what is really the difference between a PPE program and an economics and management program versus an economics and international relations program? Because when students apply, this is a big confusion and a big point of deliberation.
Okay, so in Oxford specifically, which I'll be best at answering, obviously, the core economics part of it you learn. And this I know even for students that study economics and management at other universities in the UK, the core economics you learn will be essentially the same across the courses you choose. So in the first year, I do microeconomics, macroeconomics, and a bit of statistics. And the students that do economics and management also do exactly the same thing. And if there are any students that have picked economics and international relations, at Oxford, I think usually there are like very few, or I'm not sure if the program is offered. But there are a lot of economics and management students who study exactly the same economics. The difference for a PPE student will be obviously if I enjoy the philosophy and politics side of it, in the second year, I can sort of sideline the economics if this is what interests me most. So it offers you a little more breadth. Uh, and at the same time, you'll be studying some political philosophy, some practice of politics, which is sort of international relations stuff. Whereas in economics and management, you'll get a bit more depth into finance. So you'll get to learn financial analysis in the first year itself, which is a PPE student. If I want to pick finance, which I've chosen to, I have to study it in the second year or the third year, basically. And they'll have a bit of accounting. If you want to get into CA, definitely choose economics and management. So I think that's the key difference.
So, Vedant, this sort of brings me to another very pertinent doubt that a lot of parents have, especially when they're considering US and UK, applications to US or UK, that, US has this concept of majors and minors.
Yeah.
Whereas, UK has more of a, pre-planned programs, are more straight-jacketed. So, which means you cannot change your major, and keeping that in mind, how do you see your program? Do you have any flexibility, and did you see any flexibility in the first year already in your classes, and do you see that you can really mold your course as you go along, unlike what is a popular belief that people have for UK?
So broadly, for most courses at least, this intuition is correct that in the UK you'll have a pre-planned course. You have to just do what is allotted to you. If you try and do law here, you do computer science, engineering, you'll basically just have a pre-planned course and you can't change it. For PPE and also for economics and management, since these are courses that combine subjects, it's actually quite different than what you would expect. So in the first year, it's not too versatile. But I think in the first year, often even like Canada or US courses aren't too versatile because they have something called a breadth requirement, which like you have to do a bunch of different modules. And so basically in the first year, I had to study politics, I had to study philosophy and economics, the modules that were allotted. And in the exams, they let you skip out they basically let you skip out approximately one module or half a module from each subject, the one you like the least, to attempt in the exam. But you have to study everything. In the second year, it gets extremely versatile because basically I can drop one whole subject. So if I wanted to, and this is what I'm probably going to do, but I haven't finalized my subject decisions for second year. If I wanted to, I could do all economics modules and drop out politics altogether and pick a philosophy module, for example, in the second year. So like I could choose to study quantitative economics and macroeconomics and micro. Or maybe I could say I want to do quantitative economics. I want to do one course in politics about international relations. And then I want to do a lot of philosophy, ancient to modern. So, and the same goes basically for economics and management. The principles are the same, or for economics and international relations. So you will get quite a bit of, it will be quite dynamic if you choose a combined course.
Great. So this definitely, so there is some flexibility towards, how you can really design a program. It's not so straight-jacketed as one would imagine it to be from the outside, right?
Right, yes.
So a very popular question, and I've already got that in the chat, which was also part of something which I had planned for you. Tell us a little about your high school journey, what subjects you took in high school, and, how did you go about doing, and which subject or which subjects you feel that helped you, take up the course that you are in right now, that you are studying, that, I'm so glad I took up this particular course and this is something very useful.
Yeah, so first as a disclaimer, I did the CBSE board. So if some of you are in A levels or IB, you'll have to like keep that in mind, and like different variables are involved in selecting subjects then, because you have HL and SL. But
Let me just give you a little perspective of the audience today, that we have audience from all boards here,
okay.
from IB, from CBSE, ICSE, state board also. And we have students right from grade 8 till grade 12 who are right now will be applying. So, we have a huge diversity, and we have a lot of young writing students.
Make the advice like accessible to everyone then. So basically in CBSE, I had 5 subjects. And I'll say this, I'll probably at the end, I'll give you a caveat on which of them were most important for the course. But basically my subjects were maths, physics, chemistry, English, and economics. Those were my 5 subjects. And basically I was a science student who chose economics as the 5th subject. That's the way it works. And I would say for a course like PPE or for economics courses in general, the subject that's even more important for you to take, ideally, like even more important than economics itself, is for you to take a maths course. Because I think it puts you, it may not even put you very far ahead in the application process, but once you're there, you'll have to spend much less time on learning economic concepts. Because like honestly, you could do an economics A level and a maths A level, and when the university is looking at applicants, they treat both the same. Like if you don't have economics and you have maths, they'll say, maybe this guy is an even stronger candidate. Because sometimes people struggle with statistics and probability at university, which becomes very important to economics in 2nd year and 3rd year. And like, I hope that broadly answers the question.
So to give a little perspective further on, a lot of students who come to us, they are, I don't really like math, but I really like economics. Okay. And I often tell them that, to be able to pursue economics, you need to like math, because economics is a lot of math, a lot of applied math is what economics entails. I think, Vedant, this is the point you are also kind of trying to get to. Yeah. And, when you are taking up the courses, you are seeing it practically, right?
Yeah.
In your course.
I mean, I'll say this. So if you think you're entirely just like, you really dislike maths truly, then I'd say like, perhaps just consider something alternative to economics, like a similar subject that's not economics. But if you think you can enjoy some part of maths, you're good at basic arithmetic, but then some parts of maths in school you don't enjoy, then you should look into it. And maybe if you are still good at probability, like maybe just like basic calculus and stuff, if you're able to do some basic math, I think you can still get away with it if you really like the subject. So like, don't let it completely dissuade you either.
Okay, that will be a very valuable input for a lot of students who are listening to you today.
Yeah.
So Vedant, what is your typical day like when you are at the university?
Okay, so this is a tough question to answer because my typical day varies a lot from like across the terms as well. Because in each term you'll be studying a different set of modules. But in a week, I'll probably have about 6 big lectures that I have to attend, which would be like 90-minute lectures. And there are a few optional lectures where you need to consider, okay, do you go based on reading? Like, would I rather read the reading list for this program, or would I go to the lecture? Because these lectures are like some of them are not always helpful to you. Like I'm going to try and give you an overview of what I do throughout the week and then tell you what a day would look like. But okay. And then every week I'll have between 2 to 3 tutorials, which for those of you who don't know what a tutorial is, it's a one-on-one session with an Oxford professor or like an Oxford academic, either one-on-one, or there'll be 2 students and 1 teacher, sometimes 3 students. And you'll basically be discussing the work that you've done that week. So the tutor would have assigned you a reading list and an essay, or would have assigned you some problem sheets and like in economics, and some like textbook work to read or some lecture to watch. And you'll do the problem sheet and come there and discuss it with him and go through the problems that are difficult. And this becomes extremely useful, especially if when you're doing the slightly like less quantitative subjects, like if I'm doing macroeconomics or politics, these discussions can be very nice. But in the average,
can I pause you here if you may allow me?
Sorry.
Delve a little more on this tutorial system, because this is something unique to Oxford, so maybe a lot of our audience are not aware. So what is this tutorial system in Oxford wherein there is this 1-to-1 or 1-to-2 or maybe 1-to-3, that kind of a personalized attention? So are you sort of saying, for the benefit of audience, please tell, are you saying that this is the teacher-student ratio at Oxford, or what is it?
I wouldn't say teacher-student ratio, because the same tutor will be doing like 5 tutorials. But when you're in one of these classes, and you'll be in one of these about thrice a week, the ratio of student to teacher will be just 1:2. So you'll literally be having a conversation with your teacher who's teaching.
This is Vedant. So this is post the lecture that you had with the professor, right?
Yeah, correct. So
just clarify that.
Yeah. So let me try and explain it in a more simplified fashion. So there are lectures for each subject in Oxford University, where there'll be just, for a given topic, there'll be just one lecture, and people from all colleges. So there could be over 100 people who will have to watch this lecture either in the lecture theater, or they'll have to watch a recording. And this could be on any given topic, say probability. And you'll have to watch, say, 3 of these lectures in a given week. And you'll also have a tutorial. And in the tutorial, you basically take the work that you've learned from a lecture, use it to produce an essay or solve a problem sheet, and then go and discuss it with the teacher one-on-one, who will give you like more of an in-depth knowledge of the subject.
Great. I think that makes it clear, because this is something very unique to Oxford. Yeah. Let's go back to your.
I think I said it in more of a fashion that was only accessible to people that are already in the application process.
We have a lot of students here. Very specific. So let's go back to your typical day or the week that you were talking about.
Okay. So in a typical day at Oxford, they recommend that you do 8 hours of work if you're working only weekdays. So about 40 hours of work a week, including lectures and tutorials, which is actually not too bad. And like realistically, most students will probably do somewhere around 30 hours a week, which boils down to about 6 hours a day of work. And in an average day, I would try and get up by about 8, or like be ready by 8:15, 8:30, go for breakfast in dining hall. We can talk a little bit about like prices in dining hall and living in Oxford as well. But breakfast in dining hall, I'd come back, attend my lectures, try and do some work for the next tutorial that is due, lunch, a little bit of work after lunch, and then like a tutorial if I have one that day. And after that, it would more or less be relaxing, doing some extracurriculars, socializing. I'm a little bit into college cricket. So some days especially in the summer term, there was a lot of cricket. So like every 3 days or so, there would be a cricket match. And the main idea I'm trying to give you is that you can be at Oxford and you can still do a lot of stuff that you enjoy. So it's not like you have to go there and become a geek. You can do extracurriculars that you enjoy. One of the things I did was in the last term was I got into a finance society, and we got to do a project for an actual client where we got to do some statistics for them. And the client is actually called Specsavers, which is the UK version of Lenskart. And what we got to do for them was we got to project or forecast their market size over the next 15 years. And that was a really fun project. It also adds to your CV, makes you look like, if you can do this sort of stuff at university, you look like a more complete candidate for a company or a master's program as well. So yeah, I mean, my typical day would be work till about 5 p.m. and then you figure out socializing, relaxing, your own extracurriculars.
Okay. So Vedant, what is your advice for students who are aiming to apply to Oxford this year, and maybe the ones who would be, who are potentially preparing, or, they dream to be going to Oxford?
Yeah, I mean, so if I had to boil it down to just one thing, it would be, so firstly, you've got to choose the right subject or program for yourself, which I'm sure like you guys would have got there if you're applying already. But if you're thinking of doing it over the next 3-4 years, then make sure you've chosen the right subject that you're genuinely curious about, you're interested in. And if you think you have some talent for it, then that's even better. But that this can always be worked on. And what Oxford really wants to find in you, whether it's in your interview or in your personal statement, more so in the personal statement, this one, because that's what you can control for now, is they want to see that you can demonstrate that you're curious about your subject. And I use demonstrate rather than tell, like show rather than tell, because it's very easy to be like, okay, I've always been passionate about economics since I was a little kid. I want to become a banker, so and so, etc. But if you can frame it more as, well, a few years ago, I did, or say last year, I did AP Calculus and AP Economics, and my interest in them led me to conduct a research project, or let's say do a project to build a model that studies the Spanish flu or something. I mean, this is kind of similar to what I had done. Or you can say, I actually, like, my interest in economics led me to join the society where I later became the president, and we held finance discussions and so on. So if you can demonstrate your interest in the subject through activities like this, then I think you've got a very strong shot in making it. And like, I'm sure you will uh, if you put your all into it.
So, Vedant, we have a very frank and interesting question here from the audience, right? And sometimes you want to appreciate the question for its honesty and frankness, okay?
Yeah.
Our friend here is saying, thank you, Vedant, for your inputs, and we really appreciate you giving us a peek into university life. But, tell us how did you get in there? What did you do to, sort of be where you are? How did you crack Oxford? He's really not mincing any words. He's straight to the point. So Vedant, what did you do to get into Oxford?
Okay, I can give you a rough overview. So, firstly, my grades were, I think my high school grades were pretty good. So on the Oxford website, I think you have a rough conversion of how CBSE or ICSE grades and IB grades convert to A-level grades. And you want to try and keep them in your final year, or in the year before your final year, because this decides your predicted grades. You want to try and keep them to all A stars as far as possible. I mean, this just maximizes your chances. I had pretty much all A stars in predicted grades. The second thing is, I had an economics blog that I started in 2019, which was when I just finished my 10th grade. And I would publish articles on economics and even a little bit of geopolitics from time to time. I wasn't even extremely regular with it, but at least I had an article come out every like 2 months or so on like major economic event that had happened, or like my views on geopolitics and economics. So it showed some interest in the area. The third thing, which probably was like much larger than I thought at the time, was that just because my interest in debate from middle school onwards, and obviously you don't have to start so early, I got into a lot of debate and especially Model UN. So I had a reasonable number of Model UN titles and awards. And in 2019, around end of 2019, when I was in the 11th grade, I flew to Singapore for the Oxford Model UN that year and won Best Delegate there, which, like, at least at the time, I was really proud of it. So I think that helped my application a bit.
Well, I think you should be proud of it even now.
Yeah. I mean, you realize slowly that, like, if you fail at any small obstacle, there's still a lot more to do in life. And like, even if you get to Oxford or you get like perfect grades, within like a few weeks of that, you'll be like, okay, what's next? So you should focus more on enjoying the journey than like, okay, I won this, or like I lost this. That was horrible. But okay, apart from this, I had a few other things as well. So I had started a journalism club in school where we used to publish a monthly newsletter. At least before COVID, it was monthly. Later, it like morphed a little into like once every 2 months. But started a journalism club, and I was in the student council for a short time. This was my profile roughly.
Great, thank you, Vedant. So I'm sure a lot of questions that I have in the chat are answered here with this question of yours. Vedant, I can see you become so mature, so much more mature rather in the last 1 year. So tell me some of the most interesting course that you've studied at Oxford till date.
So I won't want to answer for everyone, but at least the course I've enjoyed the most is probability and statistics, which is sort of within economics. And that's why I've chosen the quantitative economics course for second year. But basically, I've realized like applying maths to economics is something I really enjoy, which is why I've enjoyed that course a lot so far. And then theory of politics was another course that was really nice. I'm sure some of you are not like just set on economics, so you might have other interests as well. I think theory of politics can be interesting for you guys to look into. If you enjoy it, maybe PP is the course for you because there's a lot of that, and you get to read about thinkers of the over the last few hundred years and how that can be applied to modern politics, basically.
Fantastic. So Vedant, typically, the image that we all have about, these universities like Oxford, Cambridge, and all the Ivy Leagues is that, you have all the geeks, nerds studying there, right? And do you feel it's true? And do you feel it's overwhelming to be there actually when you reach there, after doing all that it took to get there? Is it overwhelming? Is it like super competitive there? How is it, once you're there?
So, I'll say this, probably Oxford and the Ivy Leagues are obviously a tad bit geekier than the average university because they try and look for people that are really passionate about that subject. But once you get there, and if you get there, you're definitely someone that does enjoy that subject. Once you do, it's very unlikely that you'll be extremely overwhelmed because you'll just find so many other people that that have the same interests as you, basically. And it tends to be very warm and welcoming, and you realize everyone is just as like nervous about getting here. Anyone who's applied to Oxford pretty much thinks it's a big deal and is like really proud of themselves. And once they get there, they're like, oh wow, this is like a really beautiful place. I can't believe I'm here. So everyone is slightly overwhelmed, and once you realize that it's just kind of warm and you'll make new friends, you'll enjoy yourself.
No, so that's great to know and quite a relief, I'm sure, for some parents and students who are listening to you. But once you are there into the thick of things and you have your assessments and all, now you're all a top grade students competing with each other. Does it get how stressful it gets there? Because I hear from a lot of parents, they're very worried sometimes, that once a child is there, what happens next?
No, it's definitely academically competitive. I mean, everyone there is pretty smart and everyone there likes their subjects. So this means if you're someone who's made it there, who's used to like coming in the top 3 in their class, that's not gonna happen like just automatically. You're gonna have to try really, really hard to get that done once you're at Oxford. But that said, I think you've got to realize like the upside you're getting from just being around there, doing quite well, just like learning more from other people that might be smarter than you, that is greater than like a little bit of stress here and there. You've got to try and take it as it comes and just try your best once you're out there, I guess.
And I think treat it more like a learning experience than anything else, because it's more of an experience that.
And if I could add a caveat, like something you have to realize that is that unlike certain Canadian universities, certain like mainland European universities, in Oxford, the filtration is done before you get there. So if you got there, they know you're good enough to do well at this course. You're not gonna just go there and like flunk out. So there's no need to be excessively stressed. Like tutors have seen like thousands of students over the years, and they've decided that you're good enough to do this course well. So you should be fine.
Yeah, that's a wonderful, wonderful reassurance to have. Okay, Vedant, how is the internship and placement scene at Oxford?
Okay, so in the UK more broadly as well, in finance, consulting, sort of these like high-paying areas where a lot of students tend to go, even journalism, some political internships. The main internship that you'll have when you're there is your second year summer internship, which is what I'm applying for right now, because you apply approximately a year to 10 months in advance. Sometimes like 8 months is when the deadlines are, basically in advance. Once you get there, almost immediately, something that you can do is you can start applying for spring weeks. And these are internships that a lot of companies offer. Even if you want to work with the government, they offer it as well, which is the spring right after your second term at Oxford. You can go here and you can get an orientation of what it feels like. It's a 1-week internship. There's not a lot of work, but you get to understand how the place runs. And I didn't end up doing one of these. but I definitely recommend it in hindsight because I think it's been quite helpful to some people. What I did end up doing, which helps with placements, is I ended up getting involved with societies that are related to my interest areas. Again, a big plus point because you get people that want to end up in the same place. And just like when you share your knowledge of the subject, you get to work on a client project. It just like you'll get to learn a lot more than you might think. Um, the placement scene after the third year, from a visa point of view, is also worth covering. And I would say, as a student who's got to Oxford or Cambridge or even a good, like a Russell Group UK university, basically. Russell Group is like the UK version of Ivy League. Once you've got here, you've got, as long as you do well at studies, you've got a good chance at getting a work placement in the UK. I know for the now, I think the current visa rule is you get about 2 years where you're allowed to work even if no one sponsors your work visa. But realistically, you will end up getting a sponsorship if you land a job in the UK, and you're quite likely to do it once you studied at Oxford.
All right, let me take up this one audience question that I have. That there are there are different colleges in Oxford, right? Under one university umbrella, there are different colleges that you apply to. So how do you decide which college one should apply?
Okay, so there are a few things. First, I want to give you a general idea of how the application works when you apply to a college. So basically, the way it works in Oxford is, even though it's collegiate, the colleges are just meant to be residence units where like you stay in these separate colleges. So like a culture forms around it, and they're meant to be for sports teams and competitiveness. And then there's a ranking with how well each college does academically every year, and the colleges kind of move up and down. It's called the Norrington table. Um, so the college you get into is not extremely significant. Like you shouldn't give that too much weight. You want to get into the university, more importantly. Um, but there are a few things you can look at if you really want to like get into the depths of it. The first thing when you look at colleges is just by even looking at websites. And there are about, I think, between 35 and 40 undergraduate colleges in Oxford. So you'll have to go through a lot. But you can get an idea of what the culture of the college is. So, for example, I go to St. Peter's, and it's known for being the friendliest college, and it's known for being quite diverse, which is a plus point. You can check out where the campus is located within the city of Oxford. And I also have, like, I'm bragging about my college too much, but it's also the most centrally located college. So I got lucky there. But then when you look at campus, my college is probably one of the smaller colleges. So it's fewer students than, say, Balliol or Magdalen, which are really large. If you think you'd prefer like a large environment, you could go for a larger college. And perhaps the most like substantive feature that changes from college to college is prices of accommodation. So, for example, and since this is like an economic session, because of economy of scale, because mine is a small college, the rent per head is quite high, and the difference is reasonably large. So, my college charges about 5,000 British pounds per year for rent, whereas St. John's, which is about 5-6 times the size in terms of number of students, charges just about 1,000 pounds a year. So there's difference in accommodation price and in dining hall prices inside the college, which are generally quite subsidized. It's not going to be too expensive, but even dining hall prices range quite a bit, like it changes.
But Vedant, that also means why you got such a nice room. You have quite a spacious room to yourself.
Yeah. But I think like if you really want to get into researching this, I don't know how intelligent the time investment would be, but you can like tailor yourself to get a larger room, to get a cheaper accommodation.
And I think that's where we will come in the picture to help students figure out which college, so that's quick. Okay, so somebody is asking you did your high school from which school and which board in India?
Right. So up to the 10th standard, which is my where I did ICSE board, I did my schooling at Bombay Scottish in Mahim. That's Mumbai. If some of you are from other cities. And in the 11th and 12th, I did RN Podar in Khar, which is a CBSE board school. And again, it's in Bombay.
Great. So there is one student who is asking which math is better for economics and management, AA or AI. I think that's an IB student who's asking that question. And what's the main difference between the two?
I honestly have no idea about IB math subjects and how they're different. But if you tell me what each one like stands for, if one is like applied math, the other one is calculus.
I'll answer that question. So there is math A and AI, and for students who are interested in general STEM areas, right? Mathematics, engineering, physical sciences, or even economics, right? They should definitely go for AA and HL, right? And AI is generally for students who are interested in social sciences, natural sciences, medicine, maybe or statistics, business, engineering. So more of applied math is what is AI. And so here for economics, I would recommend a math AHL. Okay, so I'm already taking a lot of audience questions. So there is one question that do students need to also upskill with computer-enabled topics like data analytics or AI to support your application further in economics, like students need to do during any high school profile building?
I mean, you definitely don't need to do it. Maybe it could, if like that's the kind of thing you're interested in, it could bolster your application. Because I know of people in university who will try and like learn ML, which is machine learning, like similar to AI, to bolster their like job application. So you can do some of this stuff if it interests you, but it's obviously not guaranteed to, if I do this, I'll get into Oxford. It's about the story you give it, what you learn from it, how you can present it to the university.
So, but Vedant, does doing some of these courses will help in the program that you are in currently from your experience?
I think it's not gonna like be the differentiating factor, but if it's not a massive time investment, you do it, it might pique your interest and it might be worth mentioning on your personal statement. But it's definitely not going to be the determining factor. Like I don't think you should do a lot of these courses at the cost of your academics or other extracurriculars you could do.
All right. So I have last 1 minute, so maybe we'll take another one or two more questions because I've covered most of them. So somebody is asking, how many Indians are there at Oxford, as a percentage, or so I think what they want to know is the diversity on campus.
Okay, so I can't give you an exact percentage, but I can tell you about 30% plus of people are international students there, which means they have not grown up in the UK. And this is actually like a significantly large number of people when you think about it. So they've like come from other countries and you'll get a lot of diversity in that sense. I think you will find a lot more Indians in master's courses in Oxford personally. But it's not like there'll be a lack of other Indian friends you can make there. I think there definitely is an Indian society which you can go and join, and you'll get like events with Indian food and you'll get to like meet all the Indians there. There are a lot of British Indians as well. So there aren't a lot of Indians that go from here for undergrad, but there are a lot of people in the UK of Indian origin who get into Oxford. So like I hope that answers your question. I can't give you an exact number.
Basically, there is a lot of diversity. I think being open-minded to, interacting with people of varied culture. I think the whole reason you go abroad to study is to be able to, appreciate and understand that diversity and learn from that. Yeah. So is physics required in high school for an economics program?
No, not at all. I mean, basically, I'd say make sure you keep maths and then see what interests you most, what you think you're good at, and just do those subjects.
Okay, so can you give some tips for how to prepare for TSA? I think that's a wonderful question.
So the number one thing in TSA is you need to try and understand how the paper is structured first. And the paper basically has two sections. It has section one with a lot of multiple choice questions and section two with an essay. But for section one, which is very important, what you want to do is you want to look at all the past question papers from, I think all of them are available on the net since 2008, which is when the current test format was adopted. So that's all you need. and you want to try and solve all of these. You want to note down your errors, look back at them, see what kind of question they're making errors at, and then try and practice those even more. And something you should definitely look at, maybe even before you start solving the papers, is called the TSA test specification. And it's released by Cambridge on the internet. If you Google this, you'll get a PDF document. And it basically divides all the types of questions very nicely that you get in the TSA. And the TSA basically has critical thinking and problem solving questions. I don't want to delve into this too much, but it'll show you the different types of questions. And once you look at the sample question in that, and then you look at the question papers, you'll be like, oh, this is so-and-so type of question. I should approach it like this. And you'll get much faster and much better at it.
I think that's a very, very valuable tip what you gave, Vedant. And this brings us to the end. We've actually overshot our planned time. And I've seen that we've answered mostly all the questions that I have on the chat. So thank you very much, Vedant, for this absolutely wonderful and candid chat with us. I'm sure our audience also thoroughly enjoyed listening to you and they are taking back some valuable inputs. We wish you a great future and fun times ahead as you complete your program and for your future. Thank you everyone for joining us today, and you can reach out to us on our Facebook, Instagram, or our YouTube channel. We shall see you again on August 12th, Friday at 7 p.m. for another interesting conversation with another sophomore student at the Stern School of Business at NYU in US. Till then, namaste.